Pika Pika! And welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing Trackmania once again, but this week I remembered that it has workshop support, or at least Trackmania Stadium does. And so while most people will be racing around in their Formula 1 looking vehicles, I am Pikachu in a go-kart. But because this is Trackmania, and it's only a visual change, I will still be racing with the speed of a Formula 1 vehicle, or at least the Trackmania vehicles, and yes, I find this very amusing. As far as I know, everyone else also sees me as Pikachu in a go-kart, but nobody passed comment, which I think is just wonderful. I've just been accepted for who I am in my true Pikachu self. I mean, I think you can disable the ability to see custom workshop vehicles, so maybe that plays a part as well. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, I still have all the same dimensions as a normal Trackmania vehicle. If you pay really close attention, you might notice me bumping into walls with a certain hitbox that maybe doesn't look like it should be. So you could argue that I'm actually playing with a little bit of a disadvantage here because I don't have quite as much of a grasp on what my radius is as far as hitboxes are concerned, and when you're playing a game like this which inspires you to corner as tightly as possible, that can come into play. But I thought, you know what, just for today, I want to be Pikachu in a go-kart going at max speed. But the reason why we're playing Trackmania Stadium for the second week in a row isn't just because it's good background footage. It's also because I've actually been playing a decent amount of it this week, and last night I played for many hours on end. It's the most I've played Trackmania for a long time, I think. And it reminded me of, Trackmania with a podcast on in the background is one of those zen states that I like to get into when playing games sometimes, if I just want to decompress and unwind and get away from my own mind for a minute. And okay, so I don't do too well in this video, but last night I was actually starting to compete with the people on this server, not for first or anything, but for third, fourth, fifth, depending on how many people were online at the time, and it was really satisfying and fun. I've been identifying, areas of improvement. I've been trying to get a little bit closer to the apex on the corners and stuff like that, and it's just been a wonderful time. But yeah, you're not really going to see the fruits of those labours in this video. If anyone else is aware of any other silly workshop car models that you might want to see in future episodes, let me know. Any Pokemon in a go-kart is fine by me. For the most part, it is just different painted, Formula 1 looking vehicles. But there are some cool ones in there. There are some sports cars in there, but this is the only silly one I really found, although I didn't go digging too deep. I bet there's a Hatsune Miku in there somewhere though. But Trackmania isn't the only video game I've been playing this week, so without further ado, let's be getting into what I've been getting into. Oh, that's a good transition, isn't it? I might keep that. I actually picked up some new video games this week, but before I talk about those, let's talk about one I returned to, World of Warcraft. Christian, are you finally returning to finish the midnight questing experience? No, I'm playing the Burning Crusade Classic because I watched Josh Strife Hayes and I am an easily influenced kind of guy. At least when it comes to, seeing someone enjoy a video game and going, I would like to be doing that also. So I rolled a new Draenei Warrior, which is something I did in the original TBC Classic, but I decided to do it again because I really like playing Warrior. And I did, ask a few people what race I should pick, and everyone said Space Goat, so we're rolling Space Goat. And so far I'm level 13, 14 or something. I'm questing through Blood Mist, and I'm having a pretty grand time. I actually... So the thing that's different this time around is that I joined the Union, which is the chat channel, which is basically a guild for Josh Strife Hayes' community, and the problem I run into a lot of the time when I play World of Warcraft Classic, and I'm not saying this is true of every WoW Classic gamer, but the impression I get is that a lot of people enjoy Classic, or who enjoy Classic, think great, we're playing it like it used to be in the old days. That means I can act like I did in the old days as well, and we can do slurs, and we can make fun of people and minorities and shit, and that's just not the kind of community I want to be a part of. But the Josh Strife Hayes community is actually chill and full of level-headed individuals that I've seen so far, and so for the first time, I am playing WoW Classic with a community that I actually appreciate. I would like to see that with the Grinding Gear community, but unfortunately I'm a British lad and they're a bunch of American peeps, and WoW does separate its servers by region, and I would have to pick up a separate subscription and or game in order to do that. But yeah, I've been enjoying that. It's nice to have people to talk to in the game and about the game while I'm playing the game. Go figure. And I partied up with someone and did some questing through Blood Mist as well, which was nice because TBC is still very much of the era where partying up is very beneficial for you if you want to quest through an area with speed, or you know, even just have the ability to finish some of those quests at all. But yeah, I've been enjoying that. I don't know if I'm gonna... Here's the thing. Normally when I play, like, Classic, I'm like, yeah, I'm finally gonna do it. I'm gonna stick to a character. I'm gonna get him to max level. I'm under no illusions this time around. I'm just playing it as long as I want to have fun. I'm not expecting to step through the Dark Portal on Kardum, which is the name of my Draenei warrior. But I'm just questing and enjoying it and not thinking too much more about it than that. If I stop playing this next week, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I failed to keep my attention span on a character and get them to max level yet again. I'm just going to be like, okay, cool. I got what I needed from WoW. Like, it's fine. Just play what I want. I think when it comes to WoW Classic, and maybe WoW in general, I do prefer the leveling experience over most anything else. And the one time I did boost a character in Classic when Mists was launching, I found the endgame really boring. I think WoW Classic's endgame is very much for the raiders, and I've never really been a raider, so, you know. They decided not to include LFR in Classic, and go figure, I haven't done any raiding. Isn't that interesting how that turns out? But anyway, I said I picked up a couple of games this week, so which games were those, I hear you ask? Well, you nosy fiend, it's gonna be... Wait, hang on, I picked up 3 games this week, didn't I? 2 games. Where did I get 3 from? Okay, so I picked up V Rising and Cassette Beasts. First of all, we'll talk about Cassette Beasts because I've played less than an hour of it so far, but it's on sale and I looked at it and I went, wait a minute, this looks rad as hell. Why have I never paid attention to this? Cassette Beasts is an indie creature collecting game. I think we've landed on the term creature collecting for the genre. People were saying like monster taming for a while, but creature collecting seems to be the go-to. But yes, Cassette Beasts, it's like Pokemon except with tapes instead of Pokeballs, and I know very little about what's going on with the game's story and world, but so far I've woken up on a beach without a memory, and I don't know why I'm trapped in this place that I don't know where I am, and the vibes I'm getting are very much that, like, I've either died or, like, I'm in a coma that I cannot wake from and they've transferred my consciousness into this virtual world or something. And it feels very kind of, like, afterlife-y, the way people kind of, like, talk. I don't know. That's just a vibe I'm getting. I might be completely wrong. But the story does seem interesting. And the main thing I don't love about this game so far is the battles, which is a kind of a problem, but they might grow on me still. There's plenty of time. But the problem is, first of all, they all seem to be double battles, and I don't love that. But also, the way combat plays out, animation-wise, and just the amount of time each hit takes, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, the animations are very basic. Then again, I've only been using basic moves so far, so maybe I'm being an imbecile here. But something about the way the enemies or the monsters move isn't great. And also, I've not been wowed by any of the monster designs so far. Like, they're cool and they're unique. I'm not saying they're generic or anything like that, but definitely not. But so far, none of them have really jumped out to me as like, wow, that's really cool in its own right, instead of just like, oh. So far, this very much feels like one of those games that is off-brand Pokemon, and you don't really want that with a monster taming game or a creature collecting game, damn it. But I'm probably being a little harsh because this is a very well-received game and I've barely touched it so far, but those are kind of the things that I've not loved about it so far. But the music is incredible so far, by the way. So yeah, I suppose I'll keep you updated as I play more of that, or I might, like, you know, I mostly picked it up because it was cheap and I would like to get around to it and I wanted to check it out real quick. So maybe I won't get back to you next week, but obviously I'll latest game I picked up. But the one I am playing, which did take me by surprise, is V Rising, which is another game that I've heard lots about but never really paid all that much attention to. And when I did finally pay attention to it, I went, wait a minute, this is exactly the kind of game I want to play. So first of all, how did I get here? Well, I guess I was just in a bit of a survival crafting mood in general. I've just been thinking about, I've been seeing some updates from the RuneScape Dragon Wilds team, and I've been thinking about how I want to get back to that game and play that. I might not wait till release for that, it turns out. I might just get into it because it seems like it's going to be one of those early access journeys where they drop these, like, big content patches, and it might as well be out of early access and just be dropping these patches normally. But that also got me thinking about Enshrouded, and other kind of, like, I feel like there's a modern wave of crafting survival games, whereas, like, while originally it felt like they very much spun out of Minecraft and stuff like that, it feels like they've kind of found their footing in this more, like, slightly more RPG-styled games with these grand open worlds for you to go and explore in these tiers of combat to go and attempt and stuff like that. Like, probably Valheim is what really revolutionized the genre there. If anyone knows of a game that did it earlier than Valheim, let me know. But I really do like these games for doing that. I think I'm more interested in these types of survival crafting games. But yeah, I was listening to the Core podcast, and Bo Schwartz offhandedly mentioned V Rising, and talked about it for like a short amount of time. And I've listened to episodes where they've talked about it for long periods of time because it's the main game we're talking about this week or whatever. But for whatever reason, I went, right, V Rising. I like vampires. I like dark gothic fantasy. I like this modern wave of survival crafting games. I'm in the mood for one, and I would say Vampire Survivors pretty much is that kind of one of those. Did I call it Vampire Survivors? That's going to happen a lot. I keep calling V Rising Vampire Survivors. I'm sorry. If I mention Vampire Survivors in this video, assume I'm talking about V Rising. But yeah, I checked the Steam page and I saw that it was out of early access, and has been for a while. And I was watching some trailers and I just thought, you know what? This is absolutely my jam, and I should probably just grab it and play it. It's absolutely not a Diablo-like, but it gives Diablo vibes in some respects, with like the isometric kind of a view, and just the fact that it's an RPG in like a dark gothic fantasy world, and you're killing creatures to get loot and stuff. And yeah, it's so up my alley, and I've been playing it and I'm having such a good time so far. I am playing it solo, and I have made an adjustment. So the main criticism people seem to have with V Rising is that it, in many ways, it seems very much geared towards playing it on a PvP server with the way some of the game mechanics are designed. And one of the things I noticed is when you're like refining materials, so you're smelting copper, which actually isn't too bad, or like you're using a sawmill to turn lumber into planks, or most egregiously, you're using a grinder to grind stone into bricks, it can take a very long time. And my main story objective, actually there's not really a story to this game, but my main objective was to upgrade my little fort made of wooden palisades into an actual castle. And to do that, I needed lots of stone bricks to make all the walls I needed. But it was so slow. And because I'm playing solo, I'm hosting my own server whenever I boot it up to play it, right? So I'm basically playing it offline, but not really technically. And so it's not continuing when I shut the game down or anything like that. And so if I wanted, like, obviously there's other things to do, but I was pretty locked in on this one objective. Like, I wanted to make my castle, you know? And if I wanted to wait for the stone bricks to be done, it was going to take ages. So I did bump the refinement of materials up to 6 times speed. And I feel like that is actually the standard speed that it should be if this was just like a solo offline game, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's like one specific thing that I just jumped into talking about there. The game itself is really fun. The combat's fun. Like I said, the just general setting, the vibe is really good. I love being a vampire and being like, okay, if I suck this creature's blood, I'm gonna get these perks. Like, if you suck like the blood of a wolf, you will have drunk creature blood and you will have certain bonuses, whereas like if you drink the blood of like a brawler or something, I forget if that's what they're called, but like a class of human, you will get different perks. And blood can also have different purities, and I think it's random what NPC has what purity. So if you drink blood of a certain purity, you will unlock extra tiers of perks based on that particular class of blood. And then also like you use up blood when you're like healing yourself, or I believe it just runs down if you're doing lots of manual labor and stuff. I don't know all the intricacies of the game yet, but I think that's a very cool system. Like, it doesn't feel punishing, like I constantly have to go looking for blood like a hunger meter or something. It's, you know, if I ignore it, it doesn't exactly like have me going, oh shit, you know, ah fuck, I need more blood or anything like that. But at the same time, it has me keeping an eye out for like, oh wait a minute, this bear has like 79% purity. Sure, I'll go take some creature blood for a while. And while I have creature blood, like, I noticed there's also laborer blood. Like if you drink the blood of some miners mining rocks and stuff, you will have faster resource mining and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. I love that so much. And there's also stuff like the daylight will burn you, so if you're running around during the day, which is about a third of the upcycle of like game time, and you can adjust that, by the way, if you walk in the sun for too long, you will start burning to death, which is quite funny. And I think there's ways to mitigate that as well. Like, first of all, in your base, you can build braziers, which, or like, you know, they make fog kind of occur around your base during the daytime, as long as you're burning stacks of bones. And when that's around, you're not going to get burned by the sun and that. Or also, like, there's gear I've noticed which gives you like protection from the sun and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really bloody cool, no pun intended. I really like the building as well, like the building systems. Again, it's like an isometric view. I've seen some complaints about that. Most of these survival games are like first person view, but I really like the isometric view, you know? Like, it's limiting in the best kind of way, and building a castle feels very intuitive from that camera angle and stuff. I don't feel quite so daunted by, you know, having this insane 3D space to build in. It's more like, I've chosen a plot and I can build floors and walls quite easily. And I've been building rooms and like, okay, this is the room where my refinement processes are going to happen. This is the room where this is going to happen. And I've seen that in the future, like, you can build treasury floors, and all the chests in that room, like, you can just craft from them instead of needing to get the materials out of them to do the crafting and stuff like that. So they've got a really cool way of like integrating quality of life systems into upgrades of your particular castle and stuff like that. I haven't got into thralls yet. I know that you can take living beings as thralls. I don't know what the purpose of that is, if it's some kind of automation or if it's just some kind of way of keeping various types of blood around, but that's going to be a whole thing that I'm going to be looking into soon. But this game also has some pretty cool RPG mechanics where you will have tiers of gear, and as you level up your tiers of gear, you will go and fight new bosses, and when you fight the bosses, you get like V powers from them. Like, for instance, this is like the earliest tiers of bosses, so I feel fine talking about this, it's not really spoilers, but you can shapeshift into a wolf when you beat the wolf boss. And then like there's a ranger using ice powers, and you get like an ice magic skill tree perk to use, and now one of the spells I can cast is like an ice bolt or whatever, and it's a video game, which is really cool. And that's what I love about modern survival crafting games, is I feel like they started out wanting to ape what Minecraft had, in that it was this very sandboxy, open world, random generated landscapes and stuff like that. Whereas nowadays we feel like we're leaning more into, let's handcraft a video game with a static world handcrafted to explore through, with like hidden things to find and like quest objectives to go and do, and these tiers of gear to work your way through, and the game has an ending, and that's fine, and it's great, and I love that. And I feel like I've barely started tapping into this more modern version of the survival crafting genre, you know? Like, I feel like I've barely touched Enshrouded, I've barely touched RuneScape Dragon Wilds, but I'm very fond of them and what they do and the way the game plays and stuff, so I think I've got a big future ahead of me in terms of playing these games. Maybe not to like absolute completion, I don't think I'll ever be one of those people who puts hundreds of hours into these games, but I'm very much going to have a good time exploring these worlds. I heard them referred to as micro MMOs almost, and I think that's a really good way of putting it, because, you know, obviously it's not an MMO in the proper sense of a word. You know, it's not massive. Sometimes it's not even online multiplayer. But the way those games are designed, MMOs, is as these massive worlds to go and explore with like these various things to discover and progress and work on and level up, you know, like obviously that's also what an RPG does, but it's just cool. If I sound like I'm gushing, I'm not, because I don't want my vampire from V Rising to come and drink my blood. Nothing gushing over here, no sir. But so far I'm having a gay old time, and it's wonderful. Anyway, other miscellaneous bits and bobs. So I've decided I'm gonna be doing the guess the game thing every day. Like, you know that game? I mean, I put a video up of it yesterday, if you're wondering, but it's a web game where you have to guess what game it is from certain screenshots, and you get 6 guesses from 6 screenshots. I just did today's in free, and I'm a little annoyed I didn't get it sooner, actually. Also, after many months away, maybe even a year away, I'm finally back to reading the Sun Eater series, which I'm very excited about. For the longest time, I've been stuck on the novella Dregs of Empire. Not because it's bad or anything, but because I've just been, or I was, on such a tear through books 1 to 5 and the novellas in between as well. And then I was so excited to see what happened next, but I was like, I'm going to read the novella between 5 and 6 first. And I don't want to read 6 and 7, the final 2 books, without knowing what happens with this character in this novella. But the novella itself just wasn't that interesting to me. Now that I'm reaching the climax of it, it is getting more interesting, but it was a lot of, there was stuff that I really praised book 4 of the Sun Eater series for, of like, not boring me with a particular type of plotline, that unfortunately Dregs of Empire was kind of boring me with a similar kind of plotline of just like, this character is languishing and suffering, and you're gonna read about it for many chapters, and I was like, I liked it when we did this in book 4, I don't love that we're doing it here. But I read the blurb of the 6th book, Disquiet Gods, and I was just like, man, I've got to get back to this before it completely flees my memory because I took too long. And I think after I have finished reading the Sun Eater series, for like my ebooks reading, because I like to have a physical book, an ebook, and an audiobook kind of simultaneously when I'm reading, I think I'm finally gonna crack open Malazan. Because while I read through the Wheel of Time as an audiobook series, for everything I've heard about Malazan, I feel like it would just be too punishing to listen to that as an audiobook series, in terms of like having the persona non gratis to flick back to, or like just being able to flick through it and remember, like, you know, ideally paperback books would be easiest to flick through, but something like this, for whatever reason, I just feel like ebooks suit it best, so I'll probably pick those up on Kobo. There's also just like, it's the most accessible form of reading, you know, like I can just look at my phone wherever I am and continue reading, instead of being like, oh, if I'm listening to the audiobook, I've got to make sure I'm somewhere where I can listen to my earphones. Or if I'm reading the physical book, I've never been the kind of person who takes physical books with me to places, and, you know, if I did, it's also less like incognito. I'm just looking at my phone if I'm reading a book on my phone, whereas if I'm reading a book, people are gonna see me reading a book, and they might be like, hey, what you reading? I guess I'm the opposite of a performative reader in that sense, eh? I've also almost finished the Epic collection I picked up, I think I talked about it on a Weekly Waypoint, of Star Wars Legends, the Empire Volume 1, and that's been really bloody good as well. I'll be reviewing that over on Kritigri Talk Stories fairly shortly, but it's been some real good post-Revenge of the Sith Darth Vader goodness, and it's really fun to read. And then after I'm done reading that, I suppose I'll get back to the Flash compact comic that I've been neglecting a little bit recently. I also want to finish up some other things that I've left half-read, such as the Silver Surfer Epic collection, and that Freedom, if you're wondering the name of that volume, and I have some like older Silver Age stuff as well. But yeah, beyond that, what else is going on? Still excited for EverQuest Legends, still excited for Lego Batman, Forza Horizon 6 perhaps, and also still been watching that Formula 1 Drive to Survive Netflix docuseries. Oh, I started Evangelion, I forget how you say it, but I started that. That was more than just this week, though. I slowed down on that. I need to get back to that. The problem with Weekly Waypoint is it makes me realize all the things I did this week that I didn't necessarily continue at the pace with which I started them. But, you know, we're zen. We're not going to worry about that. You can't enjoy all things in equal measure at equal speeds. And that's just fine. There you go. I found my center. I found my zen. I am now a monk of the southwest British Isles. Oh, and I guess I've still been playing Pokemon, doing that weekly, getting those mighty Mach Pokemon in Violet, continuing the Legends ZA story. I'll finish it one day. Also, last week I forgot to mention that we crossed 700 subscribers. Technically, I didn't forget to mention it. I just re-recorded last week's commentary, and I forgot that I had not mentioned it in the new commentary. But yes, thank you for 700 subscribers. And of course, next week as well is going to be the 8-year anniversary of the Weekly Waypoint, so that's going to be pretty fun as well. I have absolutely no idea what to do with it. It might just be business as usual. We've had too many anniversaries now. But thank you for checking this out. It means a lot to me. Please leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe for more, and I will catch you in whatever I make next.